You are listening to Girls, Ghosts, Ghouls, a podcast where three women discuss horror movies from the silent era through the 1970s. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify, and Anchor. Timely, topical, terrifying.
Well, welcome back. I know you might have missed us. We took August off kind of accidentally, mostly because we just kind of couldn't get organized and we were burned out. But that's okay because, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And it's Poe, so you really want to be fond of Poe. With that thought, we are now on to episode 4 of the Fall of the House of Usher Netflix series, and that is The Black Cat. So there's a couple options for an older version of The Black Cat. Um, One of them is I think it's 1934 Bela Lugosi and
Yeah,
Boris Karloff, but it has nothing to do with the Poe story at fucking all.
absolutely zero. Yeah, the only commonality is Black Cat in the name.
Yes, and there's another which is it's a trilogy. Remind me the name. Is it
Trilogy of Terror?
trilogy of
Is that
no, that's
no
the other one.
ah,
Terror stories maybe.
tragedy something something?
Okay, this is gonna drive me nuts to look up
Yeah,
Vincent Price, see what he does.
yeah, no, because it's got
I should know
Vincent
this. It's
Price.
actually a favorite of mine. I own it, but Tales of Terror. Wasn't that hard, was it? Okay.
We were,
It's
we were,
Tales of Terror.
yeah, we were close. There's terror involved.
And it's like three Poe tales, and one of them is, in fact, a version of the Black Cat. But we thought we might save that for a little later in the game because we have a couple of the Fall of the House of Usher series that doesn't quite have another movie version, older or newer for that matter. So we thought we'll throw in some of those more fun ones later. So we landed on the Black Cat 1966. And it it holds true to the Poe tale. We only found it on YouTube. I was having troubles with my rewatch. I watched it way back in like I think June when we were originally going to do this episode of July, but then got crushed by the death of Donald Sutherland. So we did Body Snatchers instead. And I did see the entirety of the Black Cat 1966 at that time, but this rewatch I got missed like the last 30 seconds where I believe if I recall correctly, the cat scares him and he crashes his car.
Correct. Yeah, there were two full-length versions of it on YouTube, at least that I found. I didn't do a deep dive. And the first one, like what you said, it was missing like the last minute or so, a couple minutes, like the sound went off and then it just cut off. And I'm like, I don't think that was the end. Not that I'm really anxious to see the rest of it, but I should for because we're covering it. And so I pulled up the other full length one, and that actually had like the last, minute and a half that got chopped off the other one.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with The Black Cat by Poe, and what these versions are, the quick summary is there's an abusive jackass of a man, and he has a very sweet partner because Netflix has done a wonderful job of being, gender fluid and all embracing and encompassing. So the original version is, of course, is a wife in post time, but and he mistreats the partner. They have the variations in the stories are like dependent. Like one version, I think the wife had the cat. This version of the 66, the wife gifted the cat to her husband. The Netflix version, the cat belonged to the partner. So it's kind of consistent. And then basically things go awry. The abuser gets more abusive and decides that they hate the cat, and they find various ways of torturing and killing the cat, and the cat always seems to come back. And in between this, you have the partner that's trying to stop this. And interestingly, in the Netflix version, this doesn't happen, but in all the other Poe versions, you will see this happen where the wife slash partner gets brutally murdered, and the perpetrator decides that he's going to hide his sin by, of course, walling it up because that's kind of a Poe trope, right? And eventually, the cat that isn't alive makes the cops or the authorities aware that that's what happened, and the evil abuser dies in various horrific fashions, usually by the phantom cat doing
Yeah,
something to
it's
cause
a
his
little
death.
you could kind of pair up the Poe story with the Telltale Heart, because in both of those, the main character kills someone, and in each of those, he takes the cops to the room, where the body is hidden. And in one story, he continuously, talks to them and whatnot, and eventually breaks down because he's hearing something. But in the Black Cat, the guy, he's like, knocks on the wall. It's nice and solid, and then you hear the wail of the cat, and the policemen freak out and start tearing down the wall. So,
Yeah. So the 66 movie, guys, it's awful. Like I have a hard time even watching all of it because I'll zone out because it's kind of
yeah,
boring.
it
Oh, I
was.
definitely zoned out. There's a 10-minute sequence in the middle where he's like at a club and we're just watching a concert by some random white guys playing jazz music poorly.
And watching the little 1960s go-go girls jingle around, and it just, yeah.
So this is my theory. I think the whole point of the movie was to highlight that singer. I think his name was Scotty McKay. That's not his real name. That was a stage name. And he had a bit of fame in the 60s, 50s and 60s. He died, I think, in the early 90s.
Yeah,
Didn't
like that.
in his 50s. But yeah, so he was supposed to be well known in the day for being a very energetic performer, which you could kind of see. And they thought he was easy to market in the 60s because he's a classic, like blonde hair, blue eyed trope. Boy kind of thing, not my style. And the one song, I think it's like Mr. Sinner or something like that, was written specifically for this movie and for him to perform. It's the one they do where they're all wearing eye patches that look like they were for little children and are digging into their faces. Which I think was supposed to be reflective of the fact that they popped Pluto the cat's eye out.
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of a mark of the main character's mental loss of faculties as you go throughout the movie.
But yeah, so you have it's really bad. Like they set up things so poorly, and there's just you just have this couple in this large house. It seems ill-fitting with a maid, and you get a little background from the maid where apparently the kid was adopted and his family died. I mean, his the adopted family died as well, and he inherited the house from the dad, and there's not good things happening in the family. And then, you just see the wife gives him this cat, and he's all excited about the cat. Immediately, they set the tone that this guy's fucked in the head because he goes in there and he has like a menagerie. There's like
In these horrible tiny
chimps,
little cages. They're
yeah,
awful.
chimps, toucan, random just animals. And why does he have one? And he's dumping champagne in their cages and like, being like, you don't want champagne? Fuck you. Just weird.
Yeah. So the guy is you know from the minute that guy's not altogether there. And so that's where you see and they keep emphasizing that by him being a drunkard, which is again.
Then you have the wife
the
crying herself to sleep at night because he's drinking with his animals and supposed to be typing because he's a writer.
I've never seen such bad fake crying in my life as I've seen from that actress.
It was bad acting all around. You don't think there was
Yeah.
a good actor in the fucking movie?
No, there was not one single one in that whole film. And I looked up the cast, and
At
I think
most, there's
there's
like
only
one or two other films.
yeah, for the most part, like the lead guy, he had zero other. I looked up at least on IMDb, zero
Yeah,
other
nothing I saw
titles.
either.
The main actress, I think she had like two other ones, and that was pretty much the theme for most of the cast. There were like
The
two
maid
actors.
had the most, I think.
It wasn't the maid. It was the club lady that he meets midway through the movie. How she's like, "Oh, buy me a drink," and he's going off on her. And then one of the detectives. Now, they didn't exactly have a rousing A-list career or even a B-list career, but they did have credits throughout the 90s. Just a lot of miscellaneous odds and ends, I think. But those were the only two out of anybody else that was involved in that thing.
Yeah. And yeah, it rapidly degrades quickly. So bad acting. I mean, it was 60s music. It was not the worst. It was not the best. It was just bizarre because it really you would equate it to a music video with the story surrounding it. Really, it's kind of what this comes down to.
A story which cut away to a music video, which cut back to the story. I think
going
it's
to
a
read
fair.
a touch of the one. Let me see if I can find it. There was a review, and I laughed so hard because I was like, yes. Let me see if I can find it. It was a 2-star review.
They were generous.
Considering the terrible sound quality and balance of the production values, 2 stars is a generous rating for this student film. They called it a student project gone awry. And I was like, yes, you are correct. It does have a feel of like, I had a budget of $5 and I got all my friends to act in this film for me rather than like professional people doing this because it did not feel professional whatsoever.
No.
That's
The,
an excellent, yeah.
the,
I think 2 stars was 1 star too many, possibly 1.5 too many. I'll
it
give
has
him
a
1 star. I'll give him 1 star for being close to the Poe story. And that's
I
it.
was going to say, we brought this up and it bears repeating. This is the closest to the Poe story. Except for the one that was in Tales of Terror. It was pretty close, but it varied because it was time period. But this is the closest to the Poe story and the most boring, horrible version I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What was it, Betsy, that you said adherence to the story?
Oh man.
Like, I think it might have been just like adherence to the story or to the source material does not a good movie make.
I
Yeah,
think
that was
is
pretty much
exactly
it.
what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. But I mean, and it's just like tediously long feeling, even though it was like what, an hour and 19 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it was like an hour and 15 or
But
12,
it's still,
13. I don't know. I've blocked so much of it out because it was so bad.
yeah. I mean, you have the maid taking the girl out the house because he tries to strangle the wife at some point, and you're wondering. I mean, obviously, if you see somebody abused, you're gonna try to save them. But like the way the maid was acting, you would think it was the girl's mother. It was very strange
Yes.
relationship going on there.
Yeah, there was a strange relationship there. There was the whole he got sent to an asylum for a minute.
After he burned down the
Sanitarium.
house after burning the cat.
Yes. He got sent to a sanitarium for a minute and he like there was far too long of him just laying in a bed thrashing. Like, why did we need that long for that? We got it. 1 minute. We didn't need that long of him on a bed thrashing, but thank you for giving us like a 5 minute sequence of just him thrashing and then the doctor being like, he's going to need a lot of support.
Doesn't he always? Yeah, he was actually pretty much a 1960s man baby of a character.
He was a
It's
man baby.
it's the best way to describe him. And also, like the worst type of gamer boy almost, the type that like their game or their like this case, their writing is so important, but basically it's everything was more important than their partner. Everything.
Yes.
I mean, she's like basically going down on her
I
knees for him, and he's just like, fuck off. I need to sit here and drink with my
I
animals
would
and pretend I'm writing.
even put writing in quotes.
Yeah.
He's at least my impression of the movie character was want to be writer. I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. Well, then sit down and do it.
Was giving me
It's like someone who's waiting to write the perfect American novel. It's not going to happen, and you're not progressing because you're not writing something. Even writing bad shit is better than writing nothing. Because eventually, hopefully, your bad shit gets better.
strong Shining vibes that way, where it's like he's sitting down trying to write, but he's just mostly drinking and crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy, except for even that was a better thing,
And
more
only that
entertaining.
was acted well.
Yeah, this was not. But yeah, like he burns down the house, he ends up in an asylum, which I assume was supposed to be detoxing him out of alcohol, and because he was being a basket case about the cat, which I think remind me, because I kind of, like I said, I kept phasing out the second view, and the first watch was way a couple months ago. So like he burns the house down and he goes to either his lawyer or an agent, and turns out that the house was not insured.
Correct.
And I think he attacks that man who tells him. Is that
Yeah.
correct? And that's
Yes.
pretty much lands him in the asylum. Not the terrible shit he did to his wife, or the animal abuse that they didn't know about, but it was that he attacked another man. So they locked him up in an asylum to detox him and to.
That's my impression of that.
And then they let him out, and somehow he has an apartment that is or is not his wife's. I'm really confused about that one. Again, might be my fault for not being able to focus very much on it because it was exceedingly boring. And of course, not shockingly, he, starts right back on the same track, ends up in the club drinking, abuses the wife again. A cat that looks extraordinarily like the one that he murdered, he ends up finding in a fountain and bringing home. And
But if you were
and the
freaked
wife's
out about
like,
the cat before, why would you bring it home?
I don't know. He was trying to make his wife happy. There's no reasoning. None. And of course the wife's like, this maybe has a bad eye like Pluto did. And that's pretty much what incites the next round of crazy, where he's trying to kill the cat and the woman, and then he does, and then he walls them up in the basement, and then the maid comes looking for her, I guess charge. I don't know. It's a very nice woman to care.
I was gonna say,
And
like she just knew he was
kind of like,
unhinged.
yeah.
I got the feeling like it's like she was a servant from another era.
Yeah.
Where the house was no longer being kept proper. It's
Well, and she mentioned that she had knew the family when he was a kid and they adopted him and everything. And so, but the attachment to the wife could just be that she knew that the girl was in trouble and was trying to like look out for her. I don't know. I mean, that I would like to think if I knew somebody was being abused, I would check on them and try to get them the fuck out of the situation as well, regardless of how close the relationship was or wasn't. For friends I know, I've definitely done it. People I don't know, it's harder. And I'll be honest, a lot of times you do see what happened in the movie and in situations where oh, but he's better now, or if I give him a second chance, and you try and you try and you just are basically in the middle of watching a tragedy and in danger of hurting yourself, which is not just getting yourself hurt, but which is not to say don't do it, just be aware that often it's best to call in experts and not try to handle that situation yourself. Just FYI. Yeah. I mean, you can offer a shoulder, you can offer a place, but also know if you offer a place, be very cautious. Because the trouble will come knocking on your door. So have 911 ready is what I'm saying. But on a lighter note, well, I guess you can't really have a lighter note with this, can you? Because basically, yeah, he kills her. The maid is like, yeah, we got to do a wellness check. Cops show up. The cops are persistent. Good on them. Probably because the guy has a record.
And the cops even had a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, which I was like, oh, they don't hand those out so quick. But hey, I was willing to suspend disbelief on that part.
Yeah, in reality, it probably been months or months and months before they ever tried to find that. Yeah, but at any rate. So yeah, they go in. There's a couple close calls where he's hidden murder weapons and they can't quite get the drawer open and stuff like that. And the guy thinks he's getting away with it, and all of a sudden they're in the basement and the cat meows behind the brick wall, and they knock it down to a horror-filled scene of the wife's body with her head split open from an axe and a mutilated cat. And then our anti-hero, which is not even the right word, our villain for sure, runs away because the cops are slow on the uptake, and jumps in his Jaguar and speedily takes off while the cops are slowly in pursuit. And then Cat jumps in front of them on the road, correct? And then he swears off and dies in a fiery wreck. And now you don't have to watch this movie.
And don't
watch.
It's about how the tagline for this film was the terrifying power of the black cat destroyed their lives.
Like, what the fuck did the cat have to do with destroying their lives?
I'm pretty sure it was the guy and his problem with booze.
Pretty sure he fucked that up all on his own.
Yes.
No, sir, this is you. Who's blaming the damn cat?
I mean, yeah. And he does that in the movie too. He tells like the cat is destroying everything and is even making them hate his wife and all this stupid shit and stuff. It's really dumb. Don't watch it. And also very triggering.
Yeah.
Animal abuse, spousal abuse, alcoholism.
Oh my god, one scene where he pours the flaming hot coffee on the monkey. That poor monkey did nothing. He was awful. Like, I mean,
Yes.
aside from the fact that he was an abuser and he ripped the eyeball out of a cat, he was just an awful person altogether.
He was an awful person even before that.
Yes.
And then he became truly awful.
Yeah. So again, the cat didn't do it. People blaming black cats for everything. They didn't do nothing but sit there and be fuzzy and be cats. That's all they did.
All my cat, that fat ass does is lay on the bed and sometimes wander in the living room and sit by the bowl, sit by the water bowl when he's like, hey, there's not enough water. Or hang
Admittedly,
out
my
at the
black
top of the
cat had
steps.
some issues, but he didn't really harm people. He just was a terrible person to clothing. But we don't need to go into that.
Like to sit in a black corner, like a dark corner, and just be eyes, so the void would stare at you. She was a void. She was a void. So that's what they do.
Yeah, my cat pretty much just likes to hang out with his older brother Toby and Jill.
Well, on to a better thing, which is, the Fall of the House of Usher, episode 4, right? Black Cat, which has Leo, which Leo I adore. And I always forget that actor's name and I adore him. He's in so much other stuff. Raoul Coley. Excellent actor. And just a cute teddy bear looking of a man, It's like,
yeah.
Funny too. I mean, like, straight up. I was like,
he kind of was my favorite of all the children. Although I did enjoy Camille.
I was gonna say, I love Camille. I liked Leo. Like, I was like, the one I would date was Leo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they've established Leo is basically, a gaming streamer that's like Mega Million popular and it's just is on it. He's got, backers and he's, endorsements and all this stuff. So, he's got his industry going already. And it was kind of Camille's favorite spin guy to stick out front because he was kind of a people's person, and in with the kids and all with the streaming. And so he was just this all around good guy. And he cared about the fact that Perry died. And you could see he was truly tore up over Camille's death.
Yeah, it was denial and in full force. He was like, no, it wasn't her. And then
he's like, you're full of shit. And then when they try to hand him like, we're gonna make this statement, he was like, I'm not doing it. This is I lost my sister. I'm pissed. Which is like the first time you really, really get that some of them liked each other. Like you get a little bit with him being sad about Perry going, but you could tell that he was super close to Camille and that he really liked her and he was heartbroken over their loss.
Yeah, it was a good touch because it was the first time you saw sort of human emotion from any of them. Genuine human emotion. Let me preface that.
Yeah. And then you see the older three don't seem to, like, to them, the loss is more about like, that Camille was good at her job. So what are they going to do with the loss of that to fill the void? And then, Victorine, of course, her and Camille were kind of enemies for whatever reason, which they do go into the other one. So, but you just get the idea that Leo was generally the one that just actually had heart.
Smidgen,
he was still a bit of a prick, but he had heart. He cheated on his boy, who was adorable. I think the guy's name was, or his partner's name was it Julian or something?
Julian.
Right?
Julius,
maybe. Yeah. But he was a real sweet partner that was looking after him. And Pluto, in this one, which is the black cat, was Julian. Sorry, it's going to drive me nuts. Somebody look that up for me. It was his cat. And of course, during the morning party that Leo had, which was a drug-filled thing, over Perry's death, he except from that and is covered in blood and sees a mutilated Pluto in a corner and does not want his partner to see this because apparently he cares enough about his partner to not want him to know that he mutilated and killed his cat. And of course ends up going around to different cat shelters in the area and runs across our favorite person, the Raven.
Is Julius.
That's when you know shit's gonna go sideways.
And you also see she does this test with each of them, and like I think this is what this test was, where you can die hard or you can have a nice pleasant death. You're gonna die. That's the obvious one, but she's trying to make it so that they can choose their death, like whether it's going to be a horrible, nasty, terrible, torturous event or just you die peacefully in your sleep. And I think in this case, the test was, do you actually save a cat that needs saving, or do you follow through with this try to replace the cat thing?
Right.
Because she keeps trying to tempt him with these other cats.
Right. This
And
one's really
it's
sweet. It's a good cat. These are,
Yeah,
and
this one is going to be euthanized tomorrow, or blah blah
yeah,
blah.
this is the last day for this one. If you don't save it, it's going to die. Now, to be fair, Leo does, in effect, from conversation, it seems, save them all. Because it sounds like he basically said, I'll give you all this money, we'll adopt all these cats, we'll throw them in an orphanage, and I just want this cat, though. You have to give me this one. So that's the assumption, that he did save all the cats, but it's also the assumption that he just threw money at it and ran. So, like, he could go either way, but effectively, he failed the test.
because the whole point is that throwing money at it is not the answer.
And deception is not the answer, because
Correct.
you're not facing the consequences of your actions, right?
They're
So,
given a chance. They're given enough rope to hang themselves in
mhm.
each case, because in every episode so far, each single one has had a point where they could have turned around and walked away, but they don't, because they can't, because they're horrible people.
Because
In the end, yes.
in the end, they were all they were all corrupted by the influence of their family.
Yeah, power and the money.
Mhm.
The lack of consequence really is what it was.
Yeah, absolute
I
power
think-
corrupts absolutely.
Well,
I-
and yeah, like, so just the complete lack of consequence. When none of your actions ever have consequences, you don't really feel like there's ever anything you can't get away with, right? And why would you
When
ever have to face the music?
yeah, and it's the nature of humanity. If we make choices and we deal with whatever happens next, and these characters in this adaptation, up till this point, none of them have suffered any consequences because they are of the ultra rich. They can get out of it. So they've effectively removed themselves from humanity.
That's
So
excellent way to look at it. Yeah.
yeah. I confess I stole that from the graphic novel called, was it Know Your Station? I can't remember the author right now, but I highly recommend it to anybody.
That's the billionaires on Mars that start getting murdered terribly. Awesome.
Yes, yes. Yeah, another one where billionaires start to get murdered.
Always a good thing.
It's a cosmic evening of the scale. So, as an aside, you should read that one. Which, and back to the POA series on the Netflix, that's what we're starting to see. A little tipping of the scale. They're starting to get mired more in the humanity that they're leaving behind. I don't think they like it.
Oh, absolutely. But meanwhile, Leo brings home the fake Pluto, and the fun thing about it is he brings it home, but Julius never sees it, right? Like, he
No,
never
it
sees
hides
his
all the
cat.
time.
It's missing every time Julius is looking for it, and it seems that Leo's the only one that really sees it, with the exception, and I don't know that he ever saw it, but Broderick, when he comes over to get drugs, there is a scene there where the cat jumps out and scratches Leo in the eye, and I think perhaps Broderick saw it too, but not 100% sure on that. He just saw Leo's eye get damaged somehow.
I'd have to rewatch to be sure.
Yeah, it's a hard to tell if Frederick sees it or not. It really is, my opinion, but you could assume that he saw the consequences of the cat. So either he sees
Yes.
Leo scratch his own eye, or he sees something scratch it. But the whole time, this cat that only Leo is seeing is like leaving dead rats everywhere for Leo to find. In the worst moments, and this is interesting though. They don't make Leo really physically abusive to Julius, which is a
No.
departure from the story. He's emotionally somewhat, I mean, he does drugs, he cheats on him, killed his cat and is replacing it with a fake one. But the only actual abusive scene you see is clearly an accident. and this is not justifying, it's literally like, Julius is in the middle of going down on Leo. Leo sticks his hand under his pillow. He feels a dead body of something that the cat left. He freaks out, jumps out, and swings his arm and catches Julius.
Yeah.
Still not good, but again, I don't know what the choice was. I'm not mad about it because I can stand seeing less abuse in the world.
Yeah.
But they don't make that part of Leo's character. He is never physically abusive. There is that one strike that literally is, like I said, out of nowhere. And it's literally like accidental and not like, oh, I don't mean to do that. It literally was an accident. So
in a weird way, I kind of wonder if it's that he doesn't have an emotional enough attachment to Julius. He likes Julius, but he's not emotionally attached enough to abuse him. Because when Frederick comes over, he says, "Oh, he's already packed his bags. He just doesn't know yet. Like he's ready to break up with Julius." And all that happened was that Julius got mad because he punched him in the face on accident because of a bird.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yes and no. Also, Julius
told him
did try to, right, was saying that you are no longer in control of your drug habit, which was like one of Leo's rules to begin with, not to question about the drugs. And and like Julius is literally saying, I'm not saying just say no, I'm saying that you are no longer in control, and it's scaring me. So yes, between being hit in the face and being angry about it, which he should be, and him questioning the drugs, basically Leo has already decided in his mind that Julius is over.
Yeah, it's been two strikes have already happened. The actual strike and what you said, the conversation over the drugs. Which, can we go back to Frederick showing up and going, I need drugs? I about died at that part. And it was great how Leo's sort of running down the things like, hey, all right, yeah, you need this. Here, you need cocaine.
He was like, yeah, none of the designer. We're gonna go with the classics for you. Yeah. Betsy, sorry.
Can we just talk about, I'm really stressed out and super anxiety ridden. Let's do cocaine about it.
That just seemed like a bad choice.
Yeah, it's not really something that cures anxiety that I'm aware of. Of course, honestly, my experience with drugs is just I've smoked pot twice and was not really impressed with when it did have an effect on me, which was vertigo. So I'm probably not the person that could really comment on that, but
it tried it like once and it did fuck all for me. So I was like, this is boring.
I have done exactly no drugs. And from my experience with no drugs, I can tell you that cocaine is a super upper, though. This is the only thing that I know is that cocaine is the super upper. And
I made up for it by drinking a lot in college.
Giving it to Frederick, he's already like freaking the hell out. It's such a bad plan.
Yeah, I mean, the point of coke is to amp you up, not to take you down. So
exactly.
You would think maybe Valium might have been the answer, but
like Quaaludes. Mm-hmm. We were going to the 70s drugs, classic drugs, Quaaludes, Valium would be good. No, he gave him cocaine. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he's like, just like one bump a day, don't overdo it. It's like a pharmacist, really. That's kind of what Leo's function was in the family.
An illicit pharmacist.
Honestly, though, in a lot of ways, like he is a streamer, and I understand he's a streamer, but it was obvious that he was also something of a drug mule. Because in the previous episode, they had come to him for all the drugs for the party, too.
Mm-hmm.
I got the impression he was a minor dealer.
Yes, he was something of a minor dealer.
I don't know. I just know that he had drugs. It seemed more like they went to him for contacts because,
and that may be
it seemed like in the culture for me just had it, that he wasn't really dealing them or even muling them, but he had them. So like when Perry came, he even told him, he's like, no, you don't do this yourself. Like he was more of a middleman. Like he could set you up with a supplier is what it came across to me as. Like he had the contacts. But he even told Perry, he's like, these are the dealers, you invite these dealers to your party, let that be on them. You don't be the supplier, So I assume I assume that was kind of his whole thing, where he had enough for personal use and recreational that he could share, but not enough that would get him, if he got busted, in trouble to the level of
intent to distribute.
Yes, exactly. That's it. So fine point, I guess, that's really irrelevant, but interesting to the conversation, right? So yeah, um, you know, and it's funny because that just kind of puts Leo in the middle of the family. Like you wonder if at one point every one of them has come to him for some reason or the other. You know what I mean?
You feel
I
like
bet.
Yeah. So,
he is
but
contact.
meanwhile,
Yeah.
you still have these phantom, which they did it well because you don't fully understand that that it's something only he's seeing until nearly the end
Right.
of the episode. Like you see these little corpses and stuff, and you just think that to be honest, cats can be dicks, and if a
It's with
cat
yeah.
is trying to get to you, it will do things to you personally. So meaning it'll piss in your shoes if it's mad at you. You know what I mean? It'll usually when it's giving animals, it's actually trying to help you out.
Yeah, the animals is an affection thing. So.
As I said, that's usually affection, not
Yeah.
punishment. When they're
But
leaving it,
you would
The,
say in this episode, though, it was clear the cat
it
was
was
doing it to
punishment.
punish him, was
Punishment.
fucking with his head.
the peeing on things was pure. I'm upset over something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which they don't do that in the series, but I'm just, equivalating that basically if a cat is mad at you, it's going to find something you like. And
Yeah, it will let you know that it's mad at you. Cats
yeah,
let you know.
and they're personal about
They
it.
are a perfect example of consent. Enthusiastic consent, consent withdrawing, consent for one thing but not another. Oh,
One-sided consent because they don't ask yours.
No, oh, absolutely not.
that's true.
I will.
Bob just decides, no, you need my love now. I'm gonna shove my face in your face, and you just kind of let him.
You hope it's their face that they're shoving in your face.
Yeah.
Sammy was famous for
That's
just
an
sitting.
example of an abusive relationship sometimes. Let's be honest.
Oh, cats? Yes, absolutely.
But they're lovely little furry creatures anyway. So there you
This
go.
is it. But
But
they live in my house and I love them. It's fine. Everything's
yeah,
fine.
that's fine. I mean,
I
they're
also
less likely
recognize
to
your
send you
weirdness.
to the hospital than anything else. So, it's fine. But meanwhile, so all these phantom dead, decapitated, mutilated animals are showing up in various places for Leo to find. Julius sees none of them. Julius is getting hurt accidentally because of this. And so, of course, what's Leo's solution? Let's go back to the place that I got it from and call the woman up here to get this cat and get it the fuck out of my apartment, right? And of course, our Raven shows up and starts fucking with him. Do you love the scene where she licks his ear?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, ah!
Yep.
She does
She's so
creep so
creepy. It's
well.
wonderful.
She's excellent at creep. It is so amazing. But yeah, so at first she seems like she's on board, and she can see the things as well. Verna, that is, I'm sorry, the Raven. I like to call her the Raven. She can see the dead mutilated animals, apparently, or she's at least going along with it, right? And she's like, telling him, explaining it, and then of course the cat sounds like it's in the wall, and then Leo just starts freaking out at her because she pretty much, is fucking with him too, and he's just like attacking her, attacking the walls, taking everything, and Julius comes home and he's knocking down the walls with Thor's hammer. You gotta
That
love it.
Mjolnir was killing me. I'm like, that's the biggest hammer. Like, seriously. Huge hammer. It's like ridiculous. I love that he's using that to do this.
So funny. And
Yeah,
he's
he grabs it and he starts going around his cats and walls. I got him. I'll buy a new fucking loft.
and he breaks out a wall and he sees the dead mutilated body of the woman Verna with her eye hanging out and the cat. Julius, of course, sees nothing. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And of course, Leo looks back and there's nothing there. And of course, then he sees the cat on the rail. And Julius is trying to stop him. He's like, "Leo, stop! Leo, stop!" And Julius is like, "I'm
What's
gonna
he
get that
doing?
cat." Runs full bore to the balcony with Mjolnir up in the air. And of course, there's no cat there. And he just falls off the balcony, crashing to the ground floor, because of course he was high up in a penthouse and he's splat
Yep.
on the concrete, dead.
And then cat walks up to him. Meow.
Yep.
Wearing the
And
collar. So it's the original cat.
Yep.
That was a good. That
Oh,
was
I
a really
didn't
good
catch
callback.
that.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
wearing the
catch that
Gucci collar
detail.
because when he comes home, he says the Gucci collar's missing. On the new Pluto.
Yeah.
So the old Pluto is the one that's on the street because it has the Gucci collar.
Yep.
It was like that was a great callback. Well done, you
Ah,
guys.
nice.
So yeah. Pluto 2, Abusive Men 0.
Don't fuck with cats.
There's a whole
There's
documentary about that.
also another rather great version of the Black Cat. You guys remember this? It was Two Evil Eyes, the Dario Argento, George Romero
Yes. Yeah, the one
double
with
feature, and he
shit.
did.
Harvey Keitel.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was like, I saw the face and I saw him
yes.
in other movies, but I just wasn't connecting it to the name.
It stars Harvey Keitel, and as you pointed out, and he does an excellent job in it. And it's very.
And it was really good and really creepy and very close to the story as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would say it was just as faithful to the story, but certainly way, way, way better.
Yes,
Than
It's
the
Harvey
it was
Keitel,
boring,
so the acting is excellent.
Yes.
not remotely boring. Interesting take too. So,
It was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. Yeah, we should have done that one. So,
I thought that one was 1980s.
oh shit, maybe that's why.
80s or 90s. It was far ahead of our wheelhouse, but yeah, I think it might have been the 90s. Let me double check because now it's going to bug me.
I was going to say I thought it was early 80s, but I could also be completely off my rocker.
It was 1990.
Okay, I was entirely wrong.
I think it's because Harvey Keitel looked kind of young.
Could be. Could be.
Yeah, relatively speaking. I mean, not as
Yeah.
young as I've seen him look in some things, but you know,
Right, but compared to like Pulp
now,
Fiction, he looked young.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he
But
was
yeah,
in that. But there's not a lot to say. I mean, again, I really think the Fall of the House of Usher Netflix, struck it big. They did really good. I love how they, every episode can stand alone. Yes, chunk. And every episode also connects to the one before it and hints at the one coming,
Mhm.
and it has little bits of continuation because why Froderick is doing drugs. Froderick is doing drugs right now is because him has confronted him with a burner phone that was in his wife's purse. And they don't know why. And of course, we know that Perry gave it to her, but he doesn't know why she would have a burner phone. And it's
and
driving
why
him
she was at Perry's party.
why she was at Perry's party. And
When it
so,
should be self-obvious why she was at Perry's party. He is very good at the denial, Broderick.
but also not because he's spiraling. And we
Hmm.
see him spiraling. And of course, we know it's going to get worse, but he's starting to try not to put things together. And we see the grand confrontation between father and daughter in Camille's death because he just straight goes to his to oh my god, I just blanked on her name.
Victory.
Victorine. He goes to Victorine and is like, "What did you say to Camille that made her go to your place?" And she's like, "I don't talk to her."
Yeah, he's like,
I don't talk to her.
there's something shady you're doing, and I know it because Camille got a scent, and Camille is never wrong.
Right.
And he's right.
He's
And
right.
he's right. There is shady
Mhm.
shit. All her medical results are essentially fake. She's being
moving
vastly
files.
unethical and illegal in her studies. So yeah. Not that illegal or unethical would bother them, but
No.
Quite true. Yeah.
even from just a scientific aspect, she's not learning anything. Because in her case, it's just
I
it
mean,
ain't working out for her.
no.
And it might be her whole concept is flawed, but because she's got summit fever, for lack of a better word, she wants to hit the top of Everest, medically speaking, and nothing is going to stop her. Not even the fact that her data is shit and none of it's working.
Well, and I think there's also the her daddy really wants this to be successful, and she's pushing to get him what he wants.
Yeah.
Because really obvious, because the look on her face of relief on her face when his face gets relieved when he's like, hey, we're going to go testing. And he's like, yes, that's what we're looking for. That's what I want. And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And keep in mind that he wants this because it's going to help him if it works with his vascular dementia. Correct me if I'm saying something wrong. So, she doesn't know that. He's pressuring her. She just wants to look good in daddy's eyes because she's one of the bastards, right?
Yeah.
And it's, and Camille just knew something smelled foul and she wanted to, show Victorine for what she was. I think because I think they did kind of say it. Verna kind of said it, but basically a lot of it is I think Camille felt like even though she was a success, her success was not good enough because her success wasn't solid, if you know what I mean. She was a spin.
Yeah.
She was excellent at it, and she should have been fucking proud of it because man, that girl was good.
Yes.
But in her eyes, Victorine had something real and tangible. Even though it wasn't her own invention, it was something she was bringing to light that was something real.
Yeah.
And nobody else of the siblings really had that.
Mm-mm.
If you think about it, like Broderick is just kind of like, Roderick Jr. And I keep calling Broderick instead of Frederick. But but there's nothing he's really doing, and then Cameron, she was basically just, a knockoff Gwyneth Paltrow when you look at it, with Goldbug being kind of like Goop. So
I think in her mind, she should have been the one who took over because she had the more business minded, like she was the better business person. But Frederick was the older and Frederick was the male. And so they went with him. And so she feels like, well, I'm going to build a business and I'm going to make it successful without you, in spite of you, to show you that I should have been the one. I should have been it.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of sibling rivalry, even amongst the real siblings. So then when you bring in all of the other kids, like how? But Camille did feel like she was useless because what she was doing was basically just saving face for everybody else. That was her job.
Just that family most fucking important job they had. I mean, even Pym did not have the skills she had. So.
And he knew it.
He can
Hilarious.
clean up messes.
Which
She can
to
make
go
look like gold.
Yeah. Yes. And you'd have to I love that one scene where in this episode where when Leo says, fuck you, I'm not doing it, and he goes to walk away. Which, I mean, even look at that. Like, I think he's the only one who said, well, fuck this family. You know what I mean? He was like, I don't give a shit. Give my share to the, next junkie that you meet. Which was mean to say to the little, junkie wife. But he was willing to walk out at the time. And you see, like, Pym grabs him threateningly. And you can see, I mean, like, Leo is easily stronger or more virile than Pym. It's in appearance for sure, but you can see Leo stiffen because he is fucking afraid of Pym.
Everyone's
and I think that's important to note.
Yeah, you get a feeling that he's not just a lawyer. Like, there's more to him than just like a lawyer. Like,
well, he's the lawyer that hands all the shady shit, so who knows what he's ordered in the past.
Right.
A fixer of sorts, shall we say?
Yeah. He's not just a lawyer, he's the one who solves problems. Legalistic problems. Camille, what she was failing to realize, but in these days, social media spin can be king for people who have something to lose. It can be extremely significant. And I think she just lost sight of that.
Yeah.
Or worth in it, yeah. Like she knew the value of it, she didn't realize how valuable she was, though.
Yeah.
Because she had that neck. But yeah, and it left a gap because, like, that whole scene just showed that without her and her amazing spin abilities, it's just anybody just spouting anything.
Well, and Leo was right. What he was reading, he's like, this is not good. This is not good. Sorry. Like, I can't say this because it's bullshit. we wouldn't say this. My sister is dead. This isn't what I would say. And I'm like, she would have written it in a way that it would sound like something he would say.
Yeah, and then you also get the more background story of Roderick and his sister's past. I can't remember her name.
Madeline.
Madeline, thank you. Oh, yeah, Roderick and Madeline's past, and their background with Augie there, like the original reason why that guy hates him so much. And but you don't get into it yet. You just get the start of the relationship, and then you also see where, in that scene, he's basically verbatim repeated what his boss shouted at him when his boss was making him eat shit, like, and do something completely unethical.
I like that.
And so you could just see where instead of becoming something better, he became a worse version of something bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a genius way that they do it. Like, they don't shove it down your throat. They don't beat you over the head with it. They don't go through a long explanation of it. They just scene. And you're like, oh, I get it.
I need to find out more of what and why happened to get all this moving.
And you get more of Madeline, and you get to see more of her cleverness and her genius and her plotting and her, you'd almost think Camille was Madeline's daughter, honestly.
That's true. I mean, the apple didn't fall far from that tree there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, don't watch Black Hat 66. There's other versions out there that are better. Do watch the other versions, Two Evil Eyes, Tales of Terror, much better versions. But yeah, still, I'm just saying the Netflix Follow the House of Usher series is really, really good. And I think if we watch it, we might get more good things like this from Netflix. They have other good things, but I like the spooky. So,
I was gonna say, I like the spooky stuff, so I think I saw something.
We are big fans of the spooky.
Shock and horror. I know.
Who would think 3 women that are going in a podcast called Girls Go Schools like the spooky? Weird of us.
I know. We're so strange that way.
We were going to call the podcast Glitter and Rainbows, but
That's my other personality.
Well, anything else, ladies?
Not really. I think we hit upon the thing that the 1966 movie was really, really bad. And it's another one that we say don't watch.
Don't watch it. You shouldn't.
You should trust us. We would not, if we tell you not to watch something, it is truly bad, because we got a pretty wide tolerance among the 3 of us.
I like terrible B movies.
Yeah, I can find something entertaining in most things. This was not entertaining.
No, and much like you, Jenny, I had a hard time focusing. I'd occasionally have to go back and painfully rewind and just to catch one little thing. And
this is the worst.
Told my husband that he could thank me because he didn't watch it with me this time. So you can say thank you because I watched that by myself and you didn't have to do it. And
you're glad to be grateful.
And he's like, thanks. Welcome. That was for you.
So yeah, I guess with that, we'll see you probably next month with another exciting episode of Follow the House of Usher. And yeah, you can thank us for not you don't ever have to watch Black Cat 1966.
We did it for you, so you don't have to.
We'll take donations.
Yeah.
Coffee or cocktails.
Or cash.
Yeah.
Oh, with that, I guess, it's been Girls Go Schools, and, we love having you. So thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
You have been listening to the Girls Go Schools podcast. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Girls Go Schools podcast, on Twitter at Girls Ghost Pod. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Girls Go Schools podcast, and find our podcast on your favorite podcatcher.